If you love spicy noodles, my friends, you gotta try my Dan Dan Noodles recipe. It is absolutely delicious, very easy to make. It's spicy Sichuan noodles and it always satisfies. So let me show you how to make it. So the first thing we wanna do is get our pork started. So I have a wok or just a large pan heated up to medium high heat. And I'm adding a bit of vegetable oil here. And I have 12 ounces of pork. This is ground pork. You can use a little bit more. I have a little bit more here, but just get it added to the wok. Break it up a touch. And salt and pepper. A little bit of salt to personal tastes. And black pepper to taste. And I'm going to stir fry this for 2 to 3 minutes to get it nicely browned and mostly cooked through, not all the way. So go ahead and cook the pork down for 2 to 3 minutes, stir frying to get it nicely browned. All right, my pork is browning up nicely. So next add, here I have 3 cloves of garlic and it's minced, but really you can use as much garlic as you like to. I mean, it's garlic. Garlic is awesome. And I have a couple tablespoons plus of ginger, minced ginger, fresh ginger. Stir it in. And I have 1/3 cup of fermented mustard greens. So Dan Dan Noodles is really meant to be cooked with lots of different fermented greens. You can usually find fermented mustard greens in Asian stores, but if you're unable to find it, you can order it online. Or you can use kimchi as a nice substitute for it. And you can use other vegetables, but this is pretty common for this recipe. So go ahead and cook this down for a couple more minutes, about a minute or so really, minute or 2, so you can smell the gorgeous garlic blooming. One of my favorite smells ever. And while the pork is cooking here, noodles. I've got 8 ounces of noodles here. I'm gonna pop it into my boiling water and get that going. This is a very quick recipe. It will be done by the time the noodles are ready. And for the noodles, you can usually find Dan Dan noodles in Asian markets or even online. But really you can use egg noodles or wheat noodles. This recipe works with many different noodles. Pretty much very versatile for the home cook. Next, for the sauce ingredients, I have 2/3 cup of chicken broth that added. And I have 3 tablespoons of hot chili oil. You can use milder chili oil, but hot chili oil, boom, makes this one. And I have 2 tablespoons of dark soy sauce. And you can use regular, lighter soy sauce, but the dark soy sauce, so much more flavor. And I have a tablespoon of rice vinegar. And I have a teaspoon of sesame oil. And I have some hot sesame oil that I'm using here, of course, because I like it spicy, as you know. But you can use regular, it's delicious. And I have 2 tablespoons of tahini or sesame paste. This stuff is so good, amazing flavor. And I have a teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice. Chinese 5-spice is essential here. It's just an amazing seasoning blend. I have a homemade version on the website that is so good, but you can get a good store-bought brand as well. And lastly, I have a teaspoon of coarsely ground Sichuan peppercorns. I actually lightly toasted these and just kind of hand ground them up with Patty's assistance there. Thank you, Patty. But this adds a lot of beautiful spice, tingliness to the tongue. And there's a little bit of that in the Chinese 5-spice, but we're adding extra because we want that tongue-numbing deliciousness. Oh, it's so good. You gotta try it, it's so good. All right, get that added in. And go ahead and stir it all together. Make sure it's all nicely incorporated into your Dan Dan noodle base without the noodles. And just gonna let this simmer for a few minutes, about 5 minutes or so, and the sauce will thicken up and it will be all ready for us to develop flavors here, and it'll be ready for our noodles. The interesting thing about Dan Dan noodles, the name actually refers to the poles that Chinese vendors used to use to bring their noodles and serve them to all their vendors on the streets. So the poles were called Dan Dan, so hence the name Dan Dan Noodles. So let's talk about heat factor. I like to make mine nice and hot and spicy, which I'm sure you're totally amazed by. But you don't have to make it as hot as I do. You can dial it back and use chili oil that isn't really very hot. You can dial back on some of the spices like the Sichuan peppercorns, but you can also make this a bit hotter if you want to. You can use extra hot chili oil. You can add hotter peppers in here as well. I didn't add any actual peppers to this, but you can very easily add in extra spicy peppers while you're cooking down the pork, and it becomes a beautifully vibrant, spicy dish. All right, my overall sauce is thickened up a bit nicely here, and if you wanted it thicker, you could always stir in a little bit of cornstarch with a little bit of water, and it'll thicken that up a bit more, but this is perfect for me. So the next step here is to get the noodles going here. So I've got my noodles boiled. I'm gonna go ahead and drain these guys. Ooh, steamy. And noodles into the wok. Gonna stir it all together, and we have some amazing Dan Dan noodles. So this is an Americanized version of Dan Dan noodles, but it really utilizes all of those wonderful Sichuan flavors that are perfect for the spicy food lover. Sichuan peppercorns, the Chinese 5-spice, just so many wonderful ingredients, and seriously, spicy goodness. Let's talk about vegetable options. Dan Dan noodles typically is made with preserved vegetables as a classic dish, but really if you're making it at home for yourself, I mean, you can use whatever vegetables you'd like to and turn it into just a delicious stir fry. Some great options would be baby bok choy, snap peas, broccoli, or pretty much any vegetable that you like to. And I would say don't forget the peppers. There it is, my friends. Boom, Dan Dan noodles. It's a perfectly spicy meal for the spicy food lover. Absolutely delicious, very easy to make, isn't it? It's done so fast. If you love spicy Chinese flavors, you gotta try my Sichuan chicken recipe. It is very spicy, very delicious, very similar flavors, and I absolutely love it. So, all right, let's give it a taste. Spicy.